Hey guys, sorry it's been kind of a long time since my last video. There's a fuss. I have been working a lot. Like I said in my last video, we got, again, new management at the place where I work, and I've just been working a lot more, and I'm kind of in the middle of a little bit of a reading slump. Like, I'm still reading, just not every day, and I've been reading the book that I'm reading, Again But Better by Christine Riccio, since May 7th, and it is currently May 26th, so it's taking me 20 days. I am almost done. I'm on page like 317, I think, so I think I've got maybe 60 pages left, so fingers crossed I can finish that today. But yeah, I've been in a mini reading slump, so I thought I should number one, be relatable and tell you guys that, but also maybe help myself and those of you like me who might be suffering a reading slump. Just some book recommendations for getting out of a reading slump. I hope what I just said made sense. Not gonna lie, there's a wasp right behind my camera. I film in front of my window, and I just got a little bit paranoid that it was gonna somehow get inside of my window and attack me. I actually have already filmed a video like this. It was like one of my first videos I ever filmed, and it's horrible, don't go watch it. But it's called Reading Slump Book Recommendations, I think. So I think I'm gonna title this one More Reading Slump Book Recommendations. I guess if you want more after watching this video, feel free to go watch that one. I am so awkward in it. I try so hard to be funny in that video. You should just watch it for a laugh, I guess, if you want to. But I mean, I do still stand by those book recommendations for reading slumps. Anyway, so in that video and in today's video, I picked out the books I'm going to be talking about based on how long, or really how short, it took me to read these books. Some of them I had to make an exception for because the sequels took me a short amount of time to read, but most of these books took me at least 2 days to finish. And I just think when you're in a reading slump, you just need a book that you know you're gonna get through fast and it's not gonna take a long time, and that it's also a gripping story. It's not just kind of a mindless story. Like, each of these books I still feel like have a really good story at its core. It just took me a really fast time to get through them. So hopefully one of these could work for you if that's what you're looking for. So allow me to go ahead and start talking about the books. This first set I'm going to be talking about is actually a duology, but I'm praying and hoping it becomes a series, and that is the Vicious and Vengeful duology series by V.E. Schwab. Vicious I read back in December of 2014 or 14. Whoa, it's been that long! December 2014 into January of 2015. It took me a couple of weeks to read it, but I read it over like that Christmas, New Year's break, and I was with family. I'm always with family during that time of the year, so I feel like maybe that's why it took me a little longer to read this one, but it was still a great read. I do think potentially maybe if I were to read this now for the first time, it would not have taken me as long, but I'm saying this one also with Vengeful because I did read Vengeful within, I want to say 2 or 3 days. Like, it took me no time at all. I freaking hate how reflective this is. For all intents and purposes, I'm just gonna hold up Vicious, that way it's just not so reflective. But Vengeful is the book that I read that took me no time at all, which is actually funnier to me because it's longer. It's a little bit chunkier than Vicious, but anyway, whatever. It's still a great story. It's fast-paced. If you have no idea what Vicious is about, it follows these two main characters. Their names are Victor and Eli, which a viewer pointed out in a comment when I talked about these books that it stands for her initials, Victor and Eli. Those are the names of the two main characters, like I just said. I never noticed that, so I liked that, whoever you were that pointed it out. Thank you for pointing it out, that was funny. Obviously purposeful. And anyway, they're college roommates, and they are brilliant, arrogant, lonely boys, and I want to say it was Eli who got assigned this, well, I think they both got assigned these research papers to do for like their senior thesis for college. But Eli is the one that wanted to research EOs, which in this book, EOs are called extraordinaries, and they're known as like the world's superheroes, and you only can become one if you have a near-death experience, but you obviously don't die, you come back, and when you come back you have powers that have something to do with like how you had your near-death experience, which is all I'm gonna say about that. I'll let you read it to know like more. Oh gosh, I was gonna say something else that I thought might be spoilery, but anyway, when Victor and Eli try to become EOs, something happens that like splits them up and they become basically enemies, and their feud goes throughout this book and then into Vengeful. I don't really want to say much more than that. Hopefully you guys don't consider that a spoiler. I got called out for a spoiler on my last video for Truly Devious, and now I'm so concerned about what can I say and what can't I say, because I dropped, I guess, some minor spoilers, so now I'm really paranoid. So I'm really sorry if I'm saying more than you wanted to know about it. It was just a gripping, fast-paced story, again, specifically more for Vengeful, but I can't fault it because of the time of the year that I read this one. Anyway, I would highly recommend them for a reading slump. If you haven't already picked them up, if you have been a subscriber of mine for like the past year, I talk about Vicious and Vengeful a lot. Well, I just read Vengeful back in October, so as much as you can since then, and for as little as I upload, let's just move on. The next book that I would recommend is actually the last book that I have finished before the book I'm reading now. And that one is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, also quite a reflective cover. I'm very sorry. This one is an adult psychological thriller novel that I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. I like all of these books, coincidentally. I really honestly feel like if I read a book within a week, that has something to do with how well I like the book too. Like if a book takes me an exponentially long amount of time, I feel like I like it less. So anyway, this is a book that I really don't want to like say much about, because I think just now, being on the other side of having read this book, I think this is a story that is best read when you go into it knowing pretty much nothing. I will say the main character's name is Jason Dessen, and he is married, has a son, lives in a nice like brownstone in Chicago, and he goes out for ice cream one night for dinner, and he gets abducted. And that's all I want to say. I don't want to say anything more. I mean, you can read the summary and it goes into a little bit more, but it really is more about like, I guess at the core of it, it's a story about a man and his undying love for his wife and son. It was so beautiful. It was so fast-paced, very gripping. All of these books are going to be gripping, because that apparently, as of right now, is the only word I can think of to describe a book that is a fast-paced read, is that it's gripping. This was intense. Reading this book felt like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but when you're running and there's like someone right behind you, like, okay, sometimes I'll run away from my dog Artie, which normally he's back there, but I didn't put him up there, sorry. But like, I'll be running away from my dog Artie just to play with him, and I'm like, I get a little bit of a thrill out of it, and that little thrill is what I felt reading this book. So hopefully if you have a dog, or if you do that with a cat, I've never had a cat, so I don't really know how that works, but hopefully you guys know I guess the sense of the reading environment I'm trying to convey. But yes, read Dark Matter. It was such a great story. It made me think. It is more sci-fi bent, but I don't ever really think in like logical ways, like my left side of my brain, who is she? I'm much more right-sided, but like this I didn't feel like it went over my head a lot, especially because there is a little bit of a sciencey part in the middle, but it ends up explaining itself as you read the book, so still would recommend, even if you are like me and you're just not well versed in science at all. Now this next novel that I'm gonna hold up, it's not like, I'm not necessarily recommending this one, although this one did take me 40 minutes to read. It's Paper Girls. It's the first volume. It's a graphic novel by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang. I was gonna just recommend just the idea of reading something you're not used to, because I'm pretty predominantly a black ink on a white page reader, so this one, it being a graphic novel, so there are pictures, there's people, there's faces, there's action that you can actually like see, there's colors, it's beautiful, it's just words put to art. Love it! Also, this character's name is Mackenzie, so that worked out perfectly. But anyway, if you don't know specifically what this one is about, it's about these group of girls. They're like newspaper delivery girls. It takes place in the very early hours of the morning after Halloween, so November 1st, in the year 1988. And they basically kind of like stumble into the apocalypse, maybe? This is the first volume in quite a bit of them. I think there's 6 or 7 out right now. But I really liked it. But just kind of the whole idea of reading something that you're not used to can maybe potentially be worth a shot if you are in the deep trenches of a reading slump. Just to get outside of your comfort zone. It's just something different. It's a different way to take in a story, entertainment, a different medium, and I would highly recommend it. I've only read like 2 graphic novels in my life so far, but I read the 2 that I have read. I want to continue reading more of them because it's different, it's new, and these specifically take a lot less time to read than reading like a typical novel. Okay, now back to the physical books because it's just what I'm comfortable with. The next one is called Bird Box by Josh Malerman. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. I don't know why you wouldn't have. It got a Netflix movie adaptation that I unfortunately wasn't a fan of. But I had read this book a few months before the movie came out, and I honestly think if I hadn't have ever read the book, I probably would have enjoyed the movie a little bit more, but I just felt like the movie did not have any sort of the sense of dread that this book had. Just that, it says it here in the blurb, the Hitchcockian terror. It was so good in this one. If you have no idea what Bird Box is about, allow me to just give you a very brief synopsis. Basically, there is something outside, you don't know what it is, because if you look at it, you're driven to insanity and to the point of ending your own life. So the world and our main character, who is named Mallory, have to board up their windows, and if you ever have to venture outside for like food or water, you have to blindfold yourself because who wants to be driven to that point of suicide, basically. So that is what the book is about. I liked that the writing wasn't superfluous. It didn't need to be. It was very straightforward, but it was straightforward in a way that was like, this is how it is, and it's just like, it scares you because he says it the way it is, but the way it is you can't see it. Does that make any sense? Like, the characters cannot see what they're afraid of, but you know that they're afraid, and the reader, therefore, I feel like is even more afraid for the characters. Like, there is a chapter towards the end where all I'm gonna say, a 4-legged creature is involved, where I was literally reading it out of the corner of my eye because I couldn't take it. It was just like, I felt like if I read it just out of the corner of my eye, maybe it wouldn't be as terrifying as it was, but it didn't lessen the blow at all. Anyway, I would highly recommend. This was a standout surprise novel read for me last year. I read it for the first time, I want to say back in October or September, and yeah, it just floored me in its excellence. I would highly recommend it for a reading slump pick or just a pick. Any of these books I would recommend for a pick. Oh my gosh, I'm getting off point here. The next book I'm going to recommend is also another adult psychological-esque thriller. I wouldn't say this one reads so much of a thriller like Bird Box and Dark Matter does. This one is just kind of more of a, I would say mystery, but I feel like when you say mystery, you think of like detectives and sleuths, and this is not that at all. It's called The Silent Patient by Alex I freaking just looked up how to say this name. I think it's Michaelides. I think, you know what? I think that's it. I don't think I have to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's Michaelides. Michaelides. I just looked it up. Okay, anyway, so if you're unaware what The Silent Patient is about, again, since it's kind of a mystery suspense novel, I don't want to say too much because there is something that happens that you can call or you can't call that happens towards the end, and I unfortunately had it figured out, but it's about this woman named Alicia who shoots her husband 5 times in the face. She is a famous painter and he's a fashion photographer, and from the outside looking in, they have a pretty perfect life. They live in a really nice, I think, townhome, penthouse type of thing. I know those are 2 completely different things. Townhome in London, and no one knows why she did it, and especially no one knows because she goes mute after it. Like, she doesn't speak. She won't tell anyone her motives, why she did it, what led up to it. She does not talk at all, like ever. So she goes, I think, to a mental psych ward, a mental facility, and we follow primarily the perspective of this criminal psychotherapist named Theo, who believes that he has what it takes to get her to talk and ultimately say what her motives were. That's all I want to say about the book. You shouldn't know any more than that, I don't feel like. I would, though, recommend, I think the way he writes the book was really unsettling, and the chapters are super short, which I'm such a fan of in books. I feel like books should have a ban. If your chapter is more than 15 pages, make it a new chapter. Freaking heck. So, I mean, honestly, the longest chapters in this book were like 5 or 6 pages, so it was really easy to tell yourself just one more chapter, and you read the chapter and be like, well, that took me 5 minutes, let's read the next one, and then before you know it, you have finished the book. So I really liked how, even though the chapters were short, he always ended it cryptically? Is that the right word to say there? I don't know. He ended it in a way where you're like, what the freaking heck does that mean? So you have to keep reading to understand like what's all going on. But yeah, so like I said, even though I called the twist pretty early on, I was still able to really enjoy just the overall reading experience. So hopefully those of you who haven't read it, you do too if you decide to pick it up. And then the last 3 books I'm gonna recommend are all a trilogy. It's a completed trilogy, but it is TheIlluminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the first one. I don't have the dust jacket on it. It's downstairs because I've had it upstairs. I was doing something with it. I may do the thing that I was doing with it more, but I don't really want to talk about it. Anyway, so the next 2 books are Gemina and Obsidio. The dust jackets are super reflective, so I'm just gonna hold up Illuminae. Illuminae I read back in August of 2017. I want to say it took me 5 or 6 days to read, but then Gemina and Obsidio I read March of last year, and I read both of these books. I want to say I read both of those books within a week and a half? A week? I don't know now, but I just feel like they were fast reads, especially because of the way they're told. Again, if you're tired of the whole black ink on a white page, read Illuminae. All 3 books are told in this like I am very pretty rose pattern, posters with graffiti, defaced, all of that kind of good stuff. Gosh, there's like some pages on here where it's like just like a map of a spaceship. If you don't know, if you haven't been subscribed to my channel, because I feel like this is another series that I can just wax poetic about forever. It's definitely one of my favorite YA just series. Like, this is a completed trilogy. There's no more books that are coming out as far as anyone knows. It's about, though, the first one, it's about this ice planet called Corinza that gets invaded by this corporation called Baytech, and on the planet Corinza exists Katie and Ezra, who are ex-lovers? I don't want to say that. They're teenagers. Ex-boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're having to escape off of this planet to go find safety and also to escape Baytech, who has sent this ship called the Lincoln after these 3 refugee ships to shoot them down. That was me shooting the ships down. So the whole thing, like, Baytech can cover their tracks and no one can find out about it, because what they're doing on Corinza, the planet, was they were mining hermium, which in the book I'm guessing is like the equivalent of like, I don't know, meth or something. Like it's illegal to like mine and I guess harvest or whatever, but people like it's good money, like it's good business. I guess it's like maybe cocaine. I don't know. Anyway, it takes place in the year 2575, so it's like way in the future. It's an intergalactic space chase expedition. This first book we follow Katie and Ezra. Gemina follows characters Niklaus and Hannah, and then Obsidio follows Asha and Reese. But like in this book, we have the 2 couples from these 2 books in this one as well. So they all like make cute little cameo returns and whatnot. Again, was that a spoiler? I really hope it's not. Knowing that the characters from the first book are still in it in the 3rd, is that a spoiler? I don't know. Also, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention like the best aspect. The Artificial Intelligence Defense Analytics Network, otherwise known as AIDEN, may or may not be going haywire, and his sparks are, what is it when your sparks are unplugged? Your sparks are fried? Freaking heck, I don't know what I'm talking about. Read this. I feel like I've told you guys to read it so often. Have you? Let me know. So yeah, these are all of the books I'm gonna recommend today to hopefully get you out of reading slump. I hope I offered some variety. No contemporaries today. How weird for me, since I love contemporaries. I guess I haven't read any that I've especially loved recently. I don't know. Anyway, let me know if you guys end up reading any of these and if it helped you get out of a reading slump. I would love to know that I helped one person out there. I say it like this is like some epidemic that we have to cure. The reading slump. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm sorry. My video uploading schedule has been non-existent, but I guess it is what it is. So I will see you guys hopefully very soon in my next video. Bye.